Oh yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to Inside Out Precision. In today's video I want to talk about high LetOff versus low LetOff. So a lot of hunting bows today are going to come with pretty high LetOff by most standards. So anywhere from 85 or 80 to 90% really. Like most Hoyts and Matthews are going to come stock with 85% unless you specify differently. Some models like some of the PSE models, I can move the draw stop on them. Make it anywhere from 80 to 90%, and that goes the same for bows with limb stops. So bows like Elite, Expedition, Prime, I can move that limb stop a little bit and increase my valley and increase my LetOff a little bit basically just by rotating that cam slightly further. The benefit to really high LetOff is mostly going to be for hunting, and I say that because if I need to be at full draw for an extended period of time, obviously having less holding weight is going to aid me in that. If I have an animal that's behind a tree or a bush or whatever it is and I need to sit there for a minute and a half, if I'm holding 10 pounds, it's a lot easier than if I'm holding like 14 or 15 pounds with a lower LetOff cam. So that's, in my opinion, that's really the only benefit to a really high LetOff cam, is being able to stay at full draw. Now, some people, depending on your shooting style, if you don't shoot a lot of back tension, you like to be nice and relaxed at full draw, then the higher LetOff might be more comfortable for you to shoot. In my opinion, the problem with higher LetOff is that basically there's really two things. The first being that the cam, because it's a deep valley, the cam really, when you draw back, you feel that clunk into the back wall. It's got that big LetOff, so that's the valley. And you'll notice with a lot of high LetOff cams that it's almost like you have to push them forward to let down, like they don't want to come off that back wall at all. And while that may seem like a good thing, the problem with that is when I shoot, that cam takes a split second longer to start camming over and actually rotating and firing the arrow. It has to get out of that valley before it can start pushing the arrow. And so it's a fraction of a second, but it does feel like there's just a tiny little delay compared to the lower LetOff modules or cams. So it takes a little bit longer to get out of the valley, which just means if your follow through is a little bit inconsistent, you're gonna see more misses that way, because basically your arrow is just it's on the string for a longer amount of time. The second thing, and this is the big one for me, is that the cam does not feel as responsive. And what I mean by that is, let's say when I'm shooting and I'm pulled into that back wall, I've got 20 pounds of pressure, of holding weight against that back wall. With a really high LetOff cam, I can ease up that pressure a ton, and that cam isn't going to tell me. It's not going to start rotating forward at all and resist me. It's just going to stay in that valley, even though the pressure has now gone down to like 14 or 15 pounds. And the problem with that is that even if the cam hasn't rotated at all, if I have a different amount of pressure on that back wall shot to shot, I'm going to see it's going to change my point of impact a little bit. And not just high-low, generally high-low, but you might see a little bit of left-right as well. So if you're not really, really consistent with the amount of pressure in your back wall, a high LetOff cam it's gonna show you that on the target face. So that's the reason that on my hunting rig I shoot an 85% module, but there's a noticeable difference between that and my target setup, which is like about 70-71% when I do the math. It says it's a 75% mod, but when I actually do the math, it's more about 70. And so that kind of brings me to lower LetOff. So generally lower LetOff is going to be, you're gonna find it on target models. For example, Matthews, like their TRX series, if you just order that standard, it's gonna come with 70% modules. Now you can get 80 for them, and you can get another one called the 70V, which is still 70% LetOff, but it has a deeper valley in it. And it's not a lot, but it's got a little more of a locked in feeling versus just basically coming back and stopping. If you've ever shot high LetOff and then go to a low LetOff, you know what I'm talking about. It feels like there's not that break over, that cam over into the valley. It just kind of comes back, and all of a sudden you're not holding as much weight. And the lower LetOff is, you'll hear guys say it's more forgiving, and what they mean by more forgiving is that it gets off the stops a lot quicker, and that arrow starts moving forward a fraction of a second sooner than a really high LetOff cam where it has to get out of that valley before it can really start pushing the arrow. So I like a lower LetOff for target. To me, it's a lot more responsive. Like I said, you know, if I ease up on that back wall, it's going to tell me. It's going to start resisting, wanting to go on me. And I want that feedback as a target shooter. I want to know if I'm getting lazy in my shot execution. And then, like I said, it also it gets out of that valley a little bit quicker, so it is a little bit more forgiving. Now, it does take more effort to shoot. You are holding more weight at full draw. You hear guys talk about holding weight all the time. You know, most target shooters are going to try and get between that like 13.5 and 15.5 range. And usually that's pretty achievable with like a 70 to 75% mod. You know, depending on obviously your peak weight, that's going to also help determine your holding weight. And it's pretty easy to figure out what your holding weight is. You know, if I'm shooting, let's say I'm shooting a 70% module, I'm going to take what my peak weight is and multiply it by 0.30, and that's going to give me the percent or the holding weight at full draw. If I'm shooting an 85% module, I'm going to take my peak weight, so let's say 70 times 0.15, and that will give me my holding weight. So it's pretty easy to figure out what your holding weight is. Like I said, I've got the 75% mods on my Halon X because they don't make 70% mods for it, but when I do the actual math, it's more like 70 to 71% LetOff. So, you know, on Matthews, for example, they've got two different modules. So the blacks are the standard 85%, and then you've got the silvers that are 75%. Now, if you're gonna switch these out, you wanna make sure that it's not gonna change your draw length. For example, like on the Traverse, you have to go one module shorter. So for example, I'm shooting the D module at 85. If I wanted to shoot 75 and stay in the same draw length, I would need to go to an E module. It actually, the 75% actually lengthens your draw a ½ inch. So you wanna make sure, whatever manufacturer you're shooting, that by changing your LetOff, you're not changing your draw length. So, like I said, there's a lot of options out there. Generally, target bows are going to be lower LetOff. They're going to be more responsive. I feel shooting a hinge, I have a lot more tactile feel of the release when I have more holding weight like that. It's easier for me to pull through the shot and really get, you know, good solid connection with my fingers on that release. You know, it's like I said, it's going to be personal preference. There's a lot of guys out there, I'm sure, that shoot target with 85%. And shoot it fine, but like I said, if you're looking to pick up a couple points, maybe give this a try with the lower LetOff, and give it a little while. You know, it's the first 20 arrows, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so tiring, I can't do this. But after a week of shooting it, it's not going to feel as bad. In fact, it actually feels a lot better to me after a little while. So those are kind of the pros and cons of high and low LetOff. You know, a lot of bows, like I said, you can get them in different. If you ask the manufacturer what are my LetOff options, they'll tell you. You know, you can get, like on the RX3s, you can get an 80% module if you want, and you know the standard's 85. I know on some of the target models, like the Pro Force, it comes standard 75. You can also get some draw stops that will make it 65. The SVX cam with them, you can get it in the 75 or 65 just straight from the factory. So there's a lot of options out there. Like I said, most guys for target are going to be between that 70 and 75. Most guys for hunting are going to be between 80 and 90. They all shoot well. Like I said, it's going to be minor differences, but you might be able to find something that's more comfortable for you. So if you have any more questions on this, please feel free to comment below or hit me up on Instagram at inside_out_precision. You know, I generally see Instagram comments as they come in, whereas for whatever reason on YouTube, sometimes it'll take a day or two for it to pop up in my notifications, or it's buried under, you know, like 200 other comments and replies. So Instagram's kind of the best way to get a hold of me if you have a more time-pressing question. We really appreciate all the support and feedback, guys. It's been awesome. If you do have, you know, any comments or questions regarding past videos, go to that video on Instagram or go to that video on YouTube. There's usually a link in our Instagram page to that video, and you know, feel free to ask. We got a lot of stuff on there. I can't cover everything in like a 7 to 10 minute video, and there's a lot of good content on there. So as usual, thanks for watching. Keep them in the middle, and remember, precision is a decision.